Welcome to the GPLama YouTube channel and to a hands-on review of this device here, the new Trek CarBack radar tail light. A device that's very similar in operation to the very popular GARMIN Varia radar, but the big claim that caught my attention with this unit is its claimed 240 meter detection range. That's almost twice the distance of other radars on the market. Almost. But regardless, it's a big claim, and if true, a big improvement in this technology. It should be the new benchmark for sure. Now, for something that should have been simply installed on my bike, paired to my bike computer, and have an obvious, much greater detection range than the competition, it wasn't that simple. And my testing of this product to prove their claims has required a lot more effort than I'd expected. It's included days and days of testing on and off the bike, setting up a number of tests to verify this product actually works. I've had multiple conference calls with Trek regarding this unit and my testing, which resulted in them sending over a second unit for further testing. And recently, when I was in the US, I picked up another unit. So I've got 3 units to verify the claims of 240 meter detection, which to me would be an absolute game changer. So is it? Well, hold on tight. This testing went to depths I never thought were possible with such a simple device. But first, let's get the technical specifications of this device and learn a little more about it. So it's an AMP Plus radar and AMP Plus light, so compatible with most good bike computers out there at the moment. It has Bluetooth connectivity to their companion app, the Trek Accessory app, which handles unit management. It also has on-screen indication of vehicles approaching and has audio alerts. Very handy if you're using Bluetooth headphones. The light that it has is identical to the Flare RT light from Bontrager, which is Trek, and this light has 4 different modes, up to 90 lumens in brightness. Now, one important note is that on vehicle detection with this radar, the light pattern does not change, it remains the same. I believe every other radar out there changes its flashing pattern or pulsing when there is a detection. This one remains the same. Trek claim a 7-hour battery life in worst conditions, so that's light on full solid and the radar working. It has a fuel gauge on the side, so when you turn it on, it's going to be very bright. You can see the lights light up there, giving you an indication of the battery status. One big difference with this radar, as compared to the others on the market at the moment, is that the Trek CarBack operates on the 77 GHz band versus the 24 GHz band used by all other radars. Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? We'll soon find out in my testing. The 240 meter detection range is what I would consider the hero feature of this device and what most of my testing was focused on. It really could be a game changer if it works. Waterproofing IPX7. The unit has a USB-C charge on the bottom there. I don't believe it's fast charge. It takes 4 hours for a full battery charge. And the claimed weight of 84 grams wasn't too far off. This on my scales came in at 87 grams without the mount. Now, as comparison, the GARMIN Varia RTL 510 comes in at 72 grams, the Bryton Guardia R300L 70 grams, and the IGP Sport SR30 comes in at 60 grams. Quickly covering off the pricing before digging into all the details of my testing, this comes in at $200 US, $300 here in Australia, and around £170 in the UK. Now, also of note, this is not for sale in Germany because the light flashes, and I don't believe it's available in China due to the frequencies it uses. Okay, so what's in the box? You get a CarBack radar taillight unit, the mount, USB-C charge cable, and the manual. Now, a little more about the mount. Trek themselves don't even use the supplied mount in most of their product promotion, for good reason. It's really not that great. Trek claims that it comes with a simple mount that's compatible with aero seat posts. In reality, it's really not. I do think Trek should have included the 3 pucks that everyone else includes with their rear taillights or radar devices for aero, round, and D-shaped posts. Now onto the battery life. For claimed 7 hours operation, during my road tests, I'm getting around 10% battery drain per hour, which seems consistent with their claims. On the bench, I had some interesting results between 2 different units. I had an Australian unit get 7 hours 40, before it went into the 5% non-radar flashing mode, which I'll explain in a minute. The US device went all the way to 11 hours 40 until it got down to 5% non-radar flashing mode, at which time the Australian unit lasted 45 hours and 46 minutes of flashing, literally days, and the US version lasted 34 hours and 25 minutes flashing. So as noted, the radar will switch off at 5% battery or lower, but still give you a flashing light. I think that's a good compromise. And the radar will enter a low-powered mode when there's no traffic. Now, my bench testing really wasn't that real world because there was no radar triggers at all. But out on the road, when there's no traffic, the radar, I believe, will pulse at 1 Hertz. When traffic is detected, it will ramp up to 4 Hertz for more accuracy of polling those cars as they approach, or vehicles. So all in all, the battery life has been acceptable throughout my usage, and I do like the fallback there to a light-only mode with no radar, with a few extra hours of flashing time. You shouldn't ever be caught out with this one. All right, onto the big one, radar claims. That longer range, 240 meters. That's the big claim. That's what I've been testing. That's what's taken a lot of time to verify. Trek claim a more accurate detection beam, but it's narrower, which comes with its own problems. Something else unique to the CarBack is the approaching lane detection feature. Now, it's meant to give you an indication of which lane an approaching vehicle is in, but it can only be seen when using their companion app. It will only work within 75 meters or closer, and it's not all that accurate or useful for a number of reasons. One being windy roads, where the angle of the bike or radar makes it appear the vehicle is in another lane. Now, while that is interesting eye candy, it's not all that useful out on the road. In fact, I would consider it pretty much useless. A lot of us are not using our phones, we are not using their apps, and that 75-meter range is too close for us to really do anything about what's approaching. So for me, that lane detection, interesting, but not useful. Okay, with all the details and technical specifications covered off, it's onto my hands-on testing of this unit and this unit up against this unit and this unit. But before we get to that, a few notes to explain a few limitations of, well, ANT+ radars and the like. So the ANT+ radar technical specification indicates that the ANT radar profile is only capable of reporting a maximum distance, which they call a range target, of 196.875 meters. So just under 200 meters. If a detection occurs beyond that, you should still get an alert, but this unit won't be able to report any further than that maximum theoretical distance from that ANT+ profile. GPS head units typically only scale their radar sidebar, little icon that moves along indicating there's a vehicle there, from 150 meters at the bottom to 0 meters at the top. Detections any further than 150 meters should result in a stationary dot down the bottom of your head unit until a vehicle comes within that 150 meters to 140 meter range, at which time it will start moving up the screen. Okay, with those details covered off, it's onto my initial testing of the CarBack unit. Now, I was so keen to test this device and its detection ranges that I was out to the nearest road within about 5 minutes of unboxing before even installing this on my bike, and the first detection is reported on the screen there. It was around 146 meters. Visually, that was around 120, 130. Second detection here coming up, pointing directly at the car, 118 meters detection distance, which visually is about right with where the tree line is. Third detection coming up here with the car inbound, perfect conditions, and this detection is reported to be 100 meters, and again, that's about correct with how far that was away. So 0 from 3 at the moment with those detection ranges. Another wall of traffic inbound. Still not that great, definitely not 240. So it was time to get this in its native habitat, which is out on the bike. Okay, for the first test ride of the Trek CarBack, installed on my bike here on Wheelshare Lane, first detection takes place, reported 146 meters back, and the dot starts moving within about a second or two. Doing a quick head check on this first detection, definitely wasn't 240 meters. That was the first range check. And you'll see this car approach quite slowly as there's oncoming cars and the other detections are happening behind it. So working as expected, but not getting that extended range in this scenario. Jumping ahead to the next detection. And this is a few kilometers down the road. Approaching car here. Perfect conditions. 146 reported. But even though that 146 may be a limitation, the visual distance and the actual distance was not in the range of 240. Okay, that car's just waiting for something to overtake, and there'll be another car coming in soon. Again, perfect conditions. Not a lot of wind. Okay, all clear on that. Next detection takes place right here. Reported 134 distance. Okay, that car passes now. That was quite a square car, but still didn't get that range. And second pass here. So working what I would call to the equivalent of other radars on the market at this point in time with my early initial testing. Another multi-car test. Range reported 146. Dot remains at the bottom for a second or two. And I suspect that distance was 150, maybe 160 at most, as those cars go past. All right, sun behind me now, rather than in front. Detection of cars coming over that crest, although still shouldn't worry it too much. We could visually see the cars were coming there, and that was again a 146 report, and visually 146, 150 with those two vehicles. Okay, a little further down the road, almost identical scenario of a car approaching. You can obviously see it there on screen. It's definitely within 240, and the detection is only at 137 as that goes past now. And all clear. And the next one coming along, obviously we can see that on screen. Detection there at 146. The dot starts moving very quickly, indicating it was not at 240 or not at 200, not even at 180, and passed. Now, on to the very first indication that I had that this device may be capable of those extra distances. Okay, we get an all clear with that white car going past, and we have a detection now on the vehicle oncoming. It's moving very slow. I'm moving at 22 k's an hour, and it does take around 6 or 7 seconds for that dot to start moving. So I suspect I have my first instance where this device did detect at that further range. Okay, we'll wait for this to go past. That was a Toyota Hilux of some type. Okay, and then just to verify those distances, I stopped, waited for some approaching traffic, exact same setup. So here we go, oncoming traffic. Can I repeat that longer distance detection? Unfortunately not. It's back to 140, 150 meter detection range with those cars there just creeping along past me. So not great early on. Okay, and here is some commentary on my rough visual estimates of where the alerts were triggering and where they should have been triggering on the road here. Now, this is before testing got very, very complicated. I was stationary right there where the black car is now on the road. Again, where the white car is just passing those bushes there. And the alerts were setting off about a second or so before this section here. So about these bollards. Now, right here, measured out to be about 126 meters. So give or take 20 meters, given I couldn't really see properly. And all right, but definitely not 250. I'll go measure 250. Okay, here I am at 240 meters from where I started. We're almost twice the distance of where it was detecting. So this is 240 meters. Right there is where they were detecting, about 140. And up there is where I was. This is not even in the ballpark of detecting here. It's not even close. It's just not. This is horrible. So I really wasn't happy with my initial testing, both on the roadside and out on the bike. And after my first conference call with Trek, after they saw those results, we did discover a bug or a limitation with these units already. So the Connect IQ data field that you saw on screen there, using my bike traffic radar data field, is reporting a maximum detection range of this unit of 146 meters. It won't report any further from this unit. Apparently this is a bug that can be resolved with this unit, hopefully allowing them to report that maximum distance of 196 with the AMP Plus radar profile. And the unit that Trek did send over to me direct was meant to have that fixed, but still hasn't. So there's a limitation of my testing at the moment. That 146 meter detection range, as shown on the screen, indicates the detections are occurring at 146 or beyond. But that wasn't the only metric I was relying on to determine that detection range. So with that aside, and these operating on a totally different frequency to everything else, it was onto some side-by-side testing. Something that I haven't done with these other radars because I haven't been confident that these wouldn't interfere with each other, being on 24 gigahertz, whereas with this being on 77, we should get some pretty clean test data with these side by side and everything else being equal. Now, based on the claims from Trek, this should be detecting at least a good few seconds every time before this one or this one from Garmin. Let's dive into that testing now.
Okay, welcome to some side-by-side testing in follow-up to yesterday's single unit testing of the Trek CarBack radar light combo. With its bold claims of 240 metre maximum detection range, wanted to jump out here and give it every opportunity to prove itself. And the claims from Trek that I was looking at yesterday, here in Ballarat, nice bright sunny conditions, line of sight, effectively standing in the bike lane, pointing the 2 units at traffic. And what we have is no real discernible difference between the two. The Trek CarBack and the Bryton Varia R300L. Now I had both units pointing at the same angle, same tilt, everything lined up. I really wanted to give the Trek unit every opportunity to prove its claims. And yeah, that lady just happened to flip me off and abuse me as I was standing on the roadside. Now there's much better things I'd rather be doing on a Saturday morning than this. However, here we are. Okay, holding everything nice and still. Remembering on a bike, the radars will be moving around, angles a little bit different, so this is perfect conditions.
Identical.
Yeah, identical. Now the distance from the Guardia there was 160 recorded, the other one was 146 or so. So look, give or take 20 metres from the standard distance of about 140 to 150. The Trek CarBack at this point in time has not detected anything further than 150 recorded, and absolutely nowhere near, not even close to 240 metres measured out in distance. Okay, the CarBack about half a second faster there. Now the marketing claims were around 4 seconds more heads up, or 4 seconds more warning with that extended distance. No, it didn't pick that magpie up either. It was going in a different direction. Really late detection there on the Trek CarBack. And a few more coming along here. Again, I'm trying to be as transparent as possible here. I'm trying to give this unit every single opportunity to just simply meet the marketing claims, the bold marketing claims we've seen, and as reviewed everywhere else by the standard media, that this thing works and works well. Credit to James from Escape Collective discussing his experience with it as well, which was pretty much parallel to mine. He said it really didn't work any better than the Varia radar, and that's what we're seeing here. A few more cars. I'm going to make you suffer through this because I suffered on the roadside getting abused by bogans. Alrighty, another one there. And, hey, Trek, come on. All right, there we go. Trek finally picked it up. Yeah, fair enough. That was in a different lane.
That was Bryton first.
Yes, it was.
Right, last one.
Speed-wise, this is a 70 kilometre an hour zone, and it's going into an intersection, so cars aren't doing 70 k's an hour, but I do think the Guardia is detecting the speed a little more accurately. Oh, it's a car park behind me they're turning into as well, but look.
No discernible difference between the Bryton and the other one. All right, time to switch over.
There we go. I'll voice over this myself. Okay, so GARMIN Varia RTL 515, very, very popular unit. Oh, about half a second there to the Trek CarBack. Not 4 seconds. Not 240 metres. If I sound a bit pissed off with this, I am. But here we are. On the flip side, if this did do 240 metres, I'd be making exactly these videos, exactly the same videos, proving it did work and shouting from the treetops with joy. So my reviews do not change based on my feeling. My reviews change based on the experience that I'm having out on the road. And this is not what they're claiming. Now, to their credit, no false positives, no false negatives. It was detecting every car. So it was doing its job, but it wasn't doing what they said it does. And that's the big value add. They were saying it does detection a lot better. And right there, I can't make this up. I could not set that up to... Anyway. Here we are. Garmin first on that one. Garmin first on that one. It is in the other lane, so okay, I'll give them that. Okay, now final test. 2 cars side by side in the lane that should detect. And who goes first? It's the Garmin Varia. Well, with that, I think it's it. We're done. We are done. Okay, jumping ahead a week later, and I've returned from the US, and I do have a second CarBack unit supplied by Trek on test right here. And I'm now on doing the side-by-side testing, which I think is a true indication of how much better or how different the units will be. First section here goes to the lower unit, which was the Varia. Then the CarBack detects later on. Okay. Lots of traffic coming through here. Let's jump ahead to the next detection. Okay, all clear. Car is in the far lane. Both identical on that. Both the same. Yep. 4-wheel drive. Big square unit, that one. Okay, another perfect setup here. Cars inbound. I'm a lot closer to the roadside. 125. The CarBack comes in first by a little bit. Another wall of cars coming through. Another perfect setup, cars side by side. Varia first. By a little bit. And I think that pretty much concludes the roadside tests. It's time to step it up just a little bit in regards to giving this unit every opportunity of proving itself. Okay, a lot going on here, and let me explain the screen setup. Over on the left, we have the full course from 0 metres to 240 metres marked out with flour on the road. So you can actually see the puffs of flour as I drive over it. It's kind of handy to sync this video up. On the left-hand side there, CarBack. On the right-hand side of that section there, the Varia RTL 515 in blue. Over to the iPhone and the Edge 840, they're both connected to the Trek CarBack, the unit supplied by Trek. The 1040 has the Garmin Varia RTL 515. Top right-hand side, you'll see a view from the front of the car and also an indication of the car speed taken from the GPS on the iPhone that was in the car at the time. Okay, first pass. Coming into the 0 marker here, or 240, away from the start. Puff of smoke, and detection is... Alrighty. 0.5 seconds detected on the Varia before the Trek CarBack, both Bluetooth and ANT Plus radar detected. So very similar, and I'll always give or take around 1 second for sample rates, given these units are, well, they're recording once per second anyway, but we have the visual there on screen with the audio. Okay, second pass, pretty much the same, I believe. Alrighty, back up to speed, pass number 2. Okay, start point there. And it's a draw across all 3 units there for that pass. Now, here's something very, very interesting. There's a car coming up very, very slowly behind me right now, and it detects at around 250, maybe 245. And everything is working as explained and as expected. So the ANT Plus is not moving, but it has detected. And now, as it comes into range of the other radar, and in that 140, 150 range, things start moving along the screen. That's exactly what I expected from all detections. And there's a 12.2 second head start from the Trek car back there, but you can see the car's just crawling along. That's not a real world example. However, it is an indication that the car back is able to detect at those distances, just not reliably. It's actually quite windy conditions there. The drone is doing a very, very good job of holding position and giving us an indication of the overhead. Did I get the U-turn right there? Oh, no, I didn't. Okay, next set of passes. All right. Foot down, let's go. I think this is a 100 km/h pass. Let's see. No. 80. Okay, 80 again. Okay, detection point there on screen, and the RTL 515 1 second ahead of the Trek CarBack on both Bluetooth and ANT+. So, very, very inconsistent. Well, the consistency there is that it's not detecting at 240. Okay, different setup here. This is the US retail unit, different angle on the screen. I'll have the same indicators though. The app didn't work. It froze on screen with another alert coming up, so I have taken the app off. Okay, bang. We have Trek CarBack detecting first, and 4 seconds later, the Varia RTL 515. That's exactly what I expected to happen in every detection. So this is, again, another positive detection that the CarBack is able to detect at those distances, and with the limitations of ANT, obviously. Not report the correct ANT distance, but that's okay. That is, again, a rare occurrence out of hundreds and hundreds of tests, but I'm happy to see it detecting at that range. So I have two more passes coming up, because what I need to see now that I've proven that it has the ability to detect at those ranges is consistency with this exact same setup. So same roads, speeds, scenarios, etc. Okay, finally figuring out the best place to turn, and here we go again, accelerating. And this is near on 100 kilometers per hour pass. Okay, so start point there, puff of flour on the road, detection points there and there. Okay, so we're back to where we were at the start, 140 or so meters. The Trek CarBack winning with about 0.3 seconds prior to the detection with the Varia. That's over ANT+. Okay, so when they're within 1 second, it sort of goes either way most of the time. And a truck coming along, big square front. This is the last pass. And the CarBack detects exactly where I expected and behaves exactly how I expected it to as well. That's a good thing. Also note the Varia came in pretty soon after, which is 3 seconds, not 4. Because it was almost a perfect scenario for that detection. Okay, so that concludes the outdoors theoretical testing. There's a few more things we need to check on the roadside, such as sweeping bends, cars moving at the same speed, and just some more head-to-head on the bike. So, yes, I know you're suffering through this video. I know we're near on half an hour, but bear with me. This is only the tip of the iceberg of what I actually did over the last 2 weeks. Okay, let's get out of the bike and get to wrapping this one up. Okay, on to what I promise is the final testing set of this device, and an interesting little scenario here where I'm riding on a bike path that is parallel to a main road, and you'll see what happens with the RTL 515 with its wider beam versus the CarBack with its narrower beam. And you'll see right there that the Varia radar does pick up that car passing while the CarBack remains silent, and that's common for a few hundred meters along this path here that you can see on screen there with the Garmin's, is that the narrower beam does not give indication to the cars on the road parallel to me are approaching or are of any threat. So you'll see another one come up right here on the Garmin. Again, the Garmin is a little chirpier. So if you've seen people discuss the fact that the Varias are a little chirpier, this is why. They have a wider beam and they will detect things a little further distance each side. Is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Hold tight. It's a good thing having a wider beam, and you'll see why in a moment. Another scenario is an approaching cyclist, and we see the Varia detecting that cyclist or smaller object approaching a lot sooner than the Trek CarBack. I'm slowing right down here, and then a few seconds later the CarBack will detect that moving object, as well as the car behind as well. And that was common for both motorbikes and other cyclists passing. The CarBack was a lot less sensitive and was detecting a lot later. In fact, one motorbike pass kind of scared me. I thought I had a lot more time up my sleeve after the warning came through, but it wasn't the case. So points to the Garmin for sensitivity on smaller objects. Two scenarios where the wider beam of the Varia was more advantageous. Right here, detecting that car coming around the corner a lot earlier than the CarBack, which detects eventually about now. Big difference there between those two. And another similar example here, the van comes around the corner, starts to accelerate, I turn a little bit, and the Varia detects it as an oncoming car, whereas the CarBack remains silent. Now that could be due to the car speed sensitivity differences too. What do I mean by that? Well, let's have a look at those differences. Okay, turning the corner here, and another example of the sensitivity of these devices. Oh, the rear camera, by the way, is the Fly 6 Pro, which is due for review soon. And you'll see here another example of the Varia being a little bit more sensitive to vehicles moving at a slower speed, detecting two vehicles behind, whereas the CarBack has remained silent. Now, it does get to a point where both will drop off. The cars are moving at the same speed as me, therefore no threat. That's how these operate. Is this a false negative? Well, I guess it depends on how you look at things. But it is another indication of the differences between the two units and where I think the Varia is a little better. And the last example out on the road, I do promise this is the last one, where I found a bus approaching. Now, big frontal area of the bus, giving the CarBack every opportunity to detect before the radar, and it did. Fantastic. Was it 240? I'm not quite sure, but it's a few good seconds before the Varia kicks in right now. There we go. Now?
Varia.
There we go. Okay. Okay, so what you've seen here is just a small section of hours and hours of testing that I've given this unit to give it every opportunity to work. And I think I'm now at a comfortable place of understanding where this works, where it doesn't, and that the claims are a little bit of a stretch, especially in regard to that 240 detection distance. We get a consistent detection distance with the Varias. With the CarBack, it's not as consistent and not as, to be honest, trustworthy. All right, let's wrap this one up.
Okay, definitely a lot to unpack there from all that testing out on the road, both on and off the bike with the Trek CarBack. I'll cover off some pros and cons before getting to my overall summary of my experience with this device and what I think of the results. Starting off with the pros, now I didn't get any false positives with this unit, which is great. Sometimes with other units, if it's a really, really windy day and the trees are blowing, you might get a false positive indicating there's something back, you'll turn around, nothing there. Not once did this have a false positive. False negatives, well, I guess the school's out, depending on what you consider a threat with cars moving slowly at about the same speed as you're riding. Maybe considered a false negative from this. The ANT Plus radar, ANT Plus light protocols were rock solid from this unit. Trek have always got their ANT Plus stuff working really, really well with their lights, the Ion and Flare, also very popular ANT Plus lights. The battery life seems acceptable, and the Trek app is definitely useful for alerts if you're using headphones. So you get those louder audio alerts if you're listening to podcasts or music or something like that and can't hear the head unit at the front. On to the cons, and this is quite an easy list. The radar detection inconsistency. It gives me less confidence in the alerts that I'm getting from this unit. Now, I was never sure if a car was going to be passing within 4 seconds or within 10 seconds. And yes, of course, cars can be coming at you at different speeds, but typically on the roads I'm on, if it's an 80km/h zone, cars are typically traveling at 80 kilometers. Every time I got an alert, I'd have to check back, and I was quite surprised at the detection distance being, well, very inconsistent. Look, the confidence that they have in their product and their testing didn't match my testing and my results with the unit. And it goes without saying, if you didn't catch early on, the rubber mount, that is absolutely terrible. And the less I say about that, the better. Okay, on to my summary and user experience of the Trek CarBack device, and it's probably obvious at this point that it doesn't meet my expectations. And those expectations were set by Trek themselves in their marketing claims. Now, I was on a podcast recently discussing with Jesse Coyle and Chris Miller about product reviews and bike tech, and I said that if a product is sold by a company and the user experience is said to be here, and the user experience is over here and there's a big gap between them, and what I'm experiencing isn't what's sold, then people lose confidence in both the product and the brand. I would have loved to have seen this unit by Trek claim a maximum distance of that AMP Plus radar spec of 196 meters, call it 200, and have it detect reliably and consistently at that distance with a slightly wider beam and a little more sensitivity for cars that are traveling at about the same speed. Then they would have had a product that reliably and confidently beats the competition. As this stands, it doesn't. Being generous, I would consider this to match the competition, and that is giving it some bonus points for sometimes, rarely, having that longer detection range. But it really does feel like a development device, not a polished end-user experience that matched their marketing claims. Look, Trek claimed they've put 30,000 miles into testing this unit before release. I only had to walk a few meters to my nearest busy road to uncover some obvious issues with this device, and then spend a lot of time proving that it is at least capable, maybe, sometimes, of the detection range that they're really, really going hard with the marketing on. So is this unit capable of a 240 meter detection range? Yes, sometimes. If you're lucky, if it's a bus, if it's a truck, or if it's a grandma driving along the road very, very slowly, wondering why all the good flour has been wasted as a line on the road which would have been better used for baking scones. All right, with that, we'll leave it there for today. Hopefully we see a few firmware updates for this maybe that improve the performance. I will be keeping these units. It's not as if they don't work, except for this mount that really doesn't work. I'll be looking for better solutions for that. But anyway, there we have it. Probably the most extensive review of a radar that you'll ever see and ever should have to watch again. As always, to support this channel and content like this, give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and I do appreciate if you've watched all the way here to the end. We'll see you soon. Typical Ballarat. I'm out here testing these radars, and I just had a woman go past, flipping me the bird and mouthing off at me. Happy Saturday.